Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming back and joining me this morning on Next on the Tee. We are brought to you today by the great folks over at the French Lick Resort, the PGA Tour Superstore, the Bobby Jones Company, Frogger Golf, and our friends at Orange Whip, makers of the Orange Whip Trainer. And folks, if you haven't checked out the Orange Whip and you're looking for a great way to kind of limber up before your next round or improve your club head speed, well, you need to go check out the Orange Whip. Pretty cold outside, right? 23 degrees here in Atlanta this morning, and there isn't a better way to loosen up and get prepared for your round than by swinging the Orange Whip. My father, 73 years old, plays 5 days a week using the Orange Whip to loosen up before his rounds. It's improving my club head speed. Take a look at what a great training aid it is, and I wouldn't say that if I wasn't using it myself. Go online to see for yourself at orangewhiptrainer.com. Please also check out our friends at the Bobby Jones Company and their winter apparel. You want to talk about some great stuff and a wonderful gift idea for anybody on your nice list. Go to bobbyjones.com and check out their great styles and super soft sweaters and shirts that are going to keep you warm and both looking good and feeling good, whether you're in the office or out on the golf course. Plus, while you're there, go watch some of the videos from Bobby Jones himself. Many of those lessons, folks, still hold true to today. So go to bobbyjones.com and see for yourself how great their apparel is. I'm your host, Chris-Mascaro, and this morning I'm excited to have three really great guests that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. First up with me this morning is going to be seven-time ladies long driving champion Lisa Longball Vluswick. She is, what an amazing player she is, and you got to go check her out on YouTube and on her site as well. We'll talk about that when she joins me here in a little bit. What a great technique she has, and we'll talk about that, plus the long driving competitions that she's won, and so much more when she joins me here in just a few minutes. Following Lisa, I'll be joined by 9-time winner out on tour in the 2011 U.S. Senior Open champion Olin Browne. He's going to join me here a little bit later on in this half hour. And then we're going to wrap up the show by getting a return visit from Edmonds CEO Paul Grangaard. And you know how much I love all of the stuff that they have on their site. We'll talk about the great, their great dress shoes, their great boots, golf shoes, their amazing sports gifts, for the sports enthusiasts in your life. And I am very honored to say I'm sitting here staring at three wonderful items, from their site for the Pittsburgh sports fan that I am. And we'll talk about all of their great stuff when Paul joins me a little bit later on in this hour. So it's going to be an informative show. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm so glad that you're here to take the journey with me over the next hour or so. And like I mentioned a moment ago, we are sponsored by the French Lick Resort, which is an absolutely spectacular place. Their Pete Dye and Donald Ross designed courses were ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state of Indiana by Golf Week. It was the site of last year's Senior PGA Championship, and they recently hosted the LPGA Legends Championship as well. Go to FrenchLick.com to see for yourself how great it is and to book your stay. And I tell you what, folks, I know it's getting cold in the golf. You may not get the opportunity to get out on the Pete Dye or Donald Ross design course. No problem. It's a great resort as well. Wonderful spa right there on the property, and a casino as well, my friends. So again, go to FrenchLick.com to see for yourself. And every week here on Next on the Tee, we like to kick off the show by saluting the brave men and women that are serving in every branch of our military who are tuning in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network. We want to thank all of you for the daily sacrifices that you and your families are making to protect our freedoms and our liberties. And we also want to thank our veterans out there for all that you and your families have done for us over the years. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life continues to be possible. And folks, please remember, if you happen to see a member of our military when you're out and about in your daily life, wherever you might be, whether it's in the grocery store, at a restaurant, in the airport, please, wherever you are, stop for a moment and tell them thank you. They are our true heroes. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you. And it's an honor that you have Next on the Tee as part of your network. To find our show, you can go to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And I also want to continue to remind our veterans, be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. It is a great site with news and articles that are geared specifically for our veterans out there. You're going to find a lot of information for you. You're going to find both useful and beneficial to you. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. And one last thing, and certainly not least, I want to send out a big thank you to our good friends over at Podbean for making Next on the Tee and our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, regularly featured podcasts both on their online website and their mobile app as well. You can see us featured on their homepage and in their sports and recreation section. We really appreciate your support and what you're doing to promote our shows. It means a great deal to us. If you're listening to this show as a podcast, we hope you're doing it via the Podbean app. And on their app, you can get instant updates every time we publish a new episode. It's free. It's got great features that let you easily discover, listen, and even publish yourself in your own podcast. Whether you're using an Android or an iPhone, Podbean is the app for your podcasting needs. Get the app now on Google Play or the Apple App Store so you can enjoy more of the podcasts that you love, and we hope 2 of them are next on the Tee and Thursday Night Tailgate. Again, podbean.com. All right, now joining me on the French Lick Resort guest line, like I mentioned at the top, is Lisa Longball of Looswick. Let me give you some background on Lisa. She is a 7-time Canadian long drive champion. She's ranked top 5 in the world. She's a 14-time world long drive finalist. She is also a keynote speaker and a great golf entertainer as well. And I'm very excited that she has taken time out of her morning to be a part of the show this morning with me here next on the Tee. Good morning, Lisa. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Chris. Thanks very much for having me.
So, Lisa, I certainly was doing a lot of reading about your background, and I read a story that said the first time you picked up a club was when you were in 8th grade, and then you went, I believe, to go get some lessons or whatnot. 60 boys and you were there, but the coach essentially set you off to go hit 6 irons by yourself while he went on with the boys. That's got to be very disheartening to think, you know what, I'm here to get some lessons. I want to learn this game, and now you're sending me off to the side. How'd you deal with that?
That was a tough start because I was my dad's last hope as a golfer. So he brought me out to junior night, and as you said, there was 60 boys and me, and the coach was like, Lisa, go hit your 6 iron at the end of the range, and he didn't come down and work with me the rest of the night. So I basically quit, and I was discouraged. So that action alone, had I had an encouraging coach who wanted me into the game, I think I could have started competing at that time and coming to the game. But I maybe played once a year with my dad, if he forced me to 9 holes, and I really gave up the game until actually just when I was finishing university.
So, you talk about your dad's last resort, right? So was it your father that first got you interested in the game and put a set of clubs in your hands?
It was. So my mom didn't play, my older sister didn't play, so I was his truly last chance to make a golfer, and he played every weekend with his friends and got great joy from golf. So I think he wanted that for us. And what was really cool is it was years later, now that golf has become my passion and my career and what I do, I was able to take my dad to St. Andrews, and I've got a picture of us walking down 18 just past the Swilcan Bridge, and it's a very, very special picture to me because it was my dad who truly did introduce me to the game.
What was it like getting to play that golf course with your father? I think that's a dream of so many of us, right? That love the game, and that our fathers, were the ones that taught it to us. Certainly from my father and I, and my myself and my son. What was it like being able to experience that?
You don't want it to end. It's one of those rounds that feels like it goes by in seconds, and that each, and it was, again, being on such hallowed ground, teeing off on the first hole, for any golfer who hasn't yet experienced it, I highly recommend to go to the home of golf, and when you're standing on that tee, to know that every single great golfer that has ever played the game has stood in that exact same spot. It's an unbelievable experience, and then to be there with your dad, it's as you go through hole 1 and 2, and you have these experiences, and you walk it, and that's the beautiful thing, especially when you play those courses in the UK, is that you walk it. So you're not in a cart, you're not separated. You have those chances to stroll down the fairway, and I'm a big fan that if you're going to play those big bucket list courses, you've got to buck up and pay for the caddy, because when you have caddies, it just makes that experience. And at St. Andrews, it's very important to know where you're going. The course is actually played in the opposite direction into which it was originally designed, so it's often very hard to see the bunkers. They're a bit hidden. You more can see them from the green as you look back to the tee, so having a caddy is imperative. But when you have that caddy, my dad and I were able to just hit our shots. The caddies took care of the clubs and everything else, and we were able to literally stroll down the fairway together and suck it in. So it's a very special moment.
Yeah, what's it like to stroll across the Swilcan Bridge with your father?
Oh, the pictures. Well, first of all, it's the pictures, and the caddies are used to it, right? But it's magical. It's if you love this game, there's people who play golf and there's golfers. If you're a golfer, when you take that walk over the Swilcan Bridge, and I hope every single person who's listening gets a chance to do that one time in their life, it's just this. It's a magical moment. And how many moments have we seen? Jack Nicklaus in his red sweater vest on the last day, his last competitive round that he played when he waved goodbye to us in 2005, from the Open, and then Tom Watson just recently. It was at night. It was so dark. But how many fans stayed to watch him, and as he took that tearful walk over that bridge and waved to the fans. So you remember all these great moments, and to be there yourself. It's again, to have that picture is framed. It's so special to me that I get to look at it every day.
Yeah, wow, that's got to be amazing. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Thank you. Yeah.
Lisa, I also read that you volunteered at the 1999 Numauer Classic that was played up in Calgary that year. It was a major at that time on the LPGA Tour. So you got an up-close view of the best female players in the world that week. Kari Webb ended up winning that year by a couple of strokes over Laura Davies. But talk about the impact of being at that event, for you and on your desire to then get more involved in the game of golf.
Yeah, Chris, that was a game changer. I have to say. So I basically was a non-golfer. My husband had just graduated from university, and he was a farm kid, so he didn't play golf, and he realized golf is a key networking opportunity. So he was being invited to corporate and charity golf tournaments, and so we would go out to the local municipal course wherever we can kind of afford to get on and play. I couldn't break 100 to save my life, but I was starting to really enjoy the game, and I was a school teacher at the time, so I had the summers off, so I did. I volunteered. It was at the Demore Classic. It was one of the 4 LPGA Tour majors at the time, and I have to say, you're standing on the sidelines. I was a marshal, so I was, holding the quiet sign, which everyone kind of teases me because, bit of an oxymoron, jumbo shrimp, Lisa holding the quiet sign, right? But, getting to stand there and watch the best female golfers on the planet. And I'm telling your listeners, if you want to replicate or emulate a swing, watch LPGA Tour players, their rhythm, their tempo, and just how far they can hit it for literally their size. And so watching these ladies, I just fell in love with the game. And I remember Julie Inkster was on my hole, and she had, the rough was so thick, she had just rolled off the green but couldn't find her ball. And, I helped her find her ball, and she's like, oh, thank you. And, it's just like you feel like, you just feel like you won the lottery when they're, when they speak to you. And everyone was so kind and welcoming. And Kari Webb was a great champion. And she and her mom had flown in from Australia, so to actually see her, win was amazing. And she and her mom came to the volunteer reception at the end and thanked all of us for being there, for giving our time, because as we all know that all these events on the PGA Tour, the Champions Tour, the LPGA, it's the volunteers that really help make it happen, because otherwise the expense would be astronomical. So, watching those players is what made me decide I want to compete in this game. And, although I couldn't break 100, luckily in golf there's competitions for people who can't break 100. So that really was my turning point in golf that really gave me that fire in my belly to want to try to compete.
And, as that inspired you to go on to compete, was there an aha moment for you that you realized, A, I like this game, and B, boy, I sure can hit it a long way?
Well, see, Chris, that's so funny because I always played with guys. I played with my husband, and who would we get paired up with? Often 2 guys. Now, I would play from the forward tees, so, if I was longer than the guys, I never really thought much of it because I was from the forward tees. And so it was when I first played, my very first competition after the Demore, that I entered. It was kind of a mid-handicap competition, handicaps 12 to 40, and I came halfway through the pack, but I was hitting it 80 to 100 yards past my other female playing partners. And I didn't really think much of it at the time, too, because I thought, well, it's the mid-handicap. And within a year, working on my swing, I still didn't have any coaching at this point, but I was able to get myself down to an 11.8 handicap, which basically just snuck me into our provincial, which would be like your state amateur. And I was competing against, top NCAA girls and so forth. And when I teed it up against those girls, although I came again near the end of the pack in that competition, I was 70 to 80 yards past all of those girls, and that's when I knew I was long. I happened to see an advertisement for a long drive competition, and I entered, and I won with a 313-yard drive with a set of clubs from Costco.
Wow.
and that's how it started.
And Lisa, and you just mentioned this a moment ago, but you had no coaching, right? You're self-taught.
I am. So if anyone watches, you mentioned the YouTube videos, you'll watch me, and you'll actually see me explode like up onto my toes. So that's, you'll see that in Lexi Thompson and Bubba Watson, old school Laura Davies. She always got up on her toes, and I did that. I was a former gymnast. I absolutely credit gymnastics as to why I can hit the ball so far. It's balance, flexibility, but where as a gymnast where you get your strength is your explosion from your legs. And so when as being self-taught, I always just, really used ground forces and exploded. And so to this day with driver, you will see me literally get up on my toes, or if you see a still shot as I come through impact.
And Lisa, I went out onto the worldlongdrive.com site and, took a look at the 2016 World Championship competition, and they set it up in a match play format, which seems a bit, unfair to me.
Chris, I have to tell you,
into a match. Go ahead.
It was tough. Yeah, this was an interesting format. Like, in my personal opinion, I feel if you want to find the top 3 longest girls on the planet, or 4 girls or 5 girls or whatever number you're going to pay down to, I personally like a straight shootout. So that you have qualifying rounds and you go double elimination through a qualifying round. So this year was very interesting. So what they did is it's 4 girls on the tee. It's the same for the men's division, and we all compete in the same place. The Golf Channel purchased our federation about 2 years ago from the Long Drivers of America. So that's been really exciting. The Golf Channel has, done a great job of October as Long Drive Month, and featuring long drivers and tips and so forth in their morning drive segments and so on. And they've really put some great effort and resources into building the stands and the venue and again more advertising. But what it is, so it's four long drivers or 4 hitters on the tee at any given time. There's slots 1, 2, 3, and 4. We each have numbered balls again according to whatever slot that you're in. Every long driver has a spotter, both on the tee and in the fairway, and they're communicating via walkie-talkie. And this year, normally we've had 2 minutes and 45 seconds, 6 balls, longest ball counts. This year, they gave us 3 minutes and 8 balls. So it was a little bit of a different format, and there were a few times, like our current world champion, Phyllis Meddy from New Zealand, she actually, in her first round, she didn't get through all her balls because she was going through her pre-shot routine, and all of a sudden the buzzer went, and so you have to really prepare for that 3 minutes to practice getting through 8 balls. But basically what they did, it was a point system, and they didn't indicate this on the website, which I was a bit disappointed because it'd be great for viewers to see what were our yardages, and we battled. I hit 40 competitive balls before we went to match play. And so first place, only the 4 girls on the tee received 200 points. Second place had 100 points. Third place got 50, and then fourth place 25. But it was a funny format because I had a stacked bracket the first 2 rounds. And I remember I had the 4th longest ball of the competition, yet I had only amassed 100 points by 2 rounds. But luckily I won my next 2 rounds and then came second in my 3rd round. So I made top 8. And then once we reached top 8, the rest of the girls were eliminated, and the top 8 girls went to a match play.
Yeah, and just from a match play standpoint, and as you kind of point out through this whole thing, it seems like an odd format to me because you could get into, if you end up playing against somebody, but, they drive at 360 and you drive at 355 and you get eliminated, but the next, the other pairings may drive at 340. You're out, but they advance. That seems odd to me.
Chris, you nailed it, and it happens in the open men's division all the time. And it's hard, right? Because you see it. You see a guy, like in the men's division, it'll be, let's call it 390, and the other guy hits it 385. So the 385 is eliminated, and the very next round it's 360 and 365, and the 365 goes forward. So, the men definitely have not been a huge fan of it. I think that the idea behind it is the Long Drivers of America had started it, and then the Golf Channel has continued it, is they think it's more exciting for live television because the open division is telecast in live television. So I think that's the reasoning, but for the women's division, like I was just thinking, oh goodness, like if you come 8th, it's first versus 8th, and so I thought, oh gee, I didn't want to come 8th or 7th because it was 7th versus the second seed, and I actually came in the ideal spot. I came in fifth out of after the qualifying rounds, and fifth versus the fourth place. So we were the two closest matched. And to show you the depth of field this year at the 2006 World Long Drive Championships, we had several newcomers and veterans that had come back, and a really, really strong field, the strongest field ever amassed at the World Championship, in my opinion. And so I faced the fourth place girl was four-time world champion Sandra Karlberg from Sweden, reigning world champion and most decorated female long driver in our sport, and that's who I got in my match play. And by 6 yards, she got me by 6 yards, but I was 6 yards away from advancing to the next stage. So that was a tough one because I felt like I was hitting it well, and it would, but it's I would love to see it as a straight shootout, and I think that there's a potential that the World Long Drive will change with the Golf Channel. They've actually organized a players summit, and they're inviting a select group of players in the Open Division, Senior Division, and Women's Division to come down to Orlando January 12th to 14th, in which I think we're going to be talking about some of the format, maybe the future of long drive. So I'm hoping we have an opportunity to express, our feelings as to where we would love to see the sport going.
And Lisa, as I saw some of the pictures of you online, and you wear Nike apparel, but I saw at the 2016 World Drive Competition that you used a Callaway XR16 driver. Did you used to use Nike clubs before they decided to get out of the golf business and just switched to Callaway?
Yeah, so this has been it was a bit difficult. It was, I've been a Nike athlete for 12 years, a voraciously proud Nike athlete wearing the swoosh. I've come second in the world with Nike equipment, third in the world with Nike equipment. So absolutely. The issue became, early August, first week of August, Nike announced that they were getting out of the equipment industry, and I was devastated. I've been a Nike athlete for, as I said, 12 years, and I've loved their product, and to think that I'll never hit a club, a Nike club again. The issue became sometimes access. So Nike doesn't produce heads that are under 8.5 degrees in loft. And in long drive, the men in particular, use 3-4 degree drivers, and the women's division we use 6-7 degree drivers. And so I always had to get my heads from the oven, Nike's R&D facility. And with the announcement, it was difficult to get those lower lofted heads in time for my World Long Drive Championships. So it was, Nike was fantastic. Nike always has been so amazing with me, and they understood that we just couldn't get the equipment in time with that huge announcement coming. So that's probably for 2017. Callaway, they are ingrained in long drive. They believe in long drive. They have a distance team. They have been a wonderful sponsor of the World Long Drive Championships, and that's the equipment that I'll be using in 2017. And I'm pretty excited with where they're going in their equipment. But also, it's a heavy heart because I'm really sad that Nike no longer will be in the equipment industry.
And as you mentioned a moment ago, Lisa, the loft on your driver, 6 degrees for competition. Is that the same loft you use when you're just out playing around a golf?
Yes, I would say my go-to, if I had to say my go-to loft, kind of like I had a 6.8 Nike Vapor driver that I just was in love with, and so the 6.8 was my go-to. But this year at World Long Drive Championships, we had a 20-mile-an-hour headwind in Oklahoma, and I cranked it down to a 4.9 degree driver. So I competed with a 4.9 degree driver at World Championships.
Wow, how do you control a 4.9 degree driver?
It's almost like a putter, right, Chris?
Yes.
So here's the thing. It's not about as much for control. Like the faster your club head speed, the higher you launch the ball, and that's why the men's division, their club head speeds are in the 150 mile an hour range. So that's why they need those lower lofted drivers. I have a bit of a steep swing plane to begin with, so I launch the ball quite high. So for me, it's not as much a control issue with that degree. It actually becomes the shaft. That's where you start to see the control issue come in. So standard gentleman's driver is 45 inches. Standard ladies' driver is 43.5 inches. But you'll see that at the World Long Drive Championships, we max it out to 48 inches. So we go full USGA. And so with the longer shaft, for many of your listeners, yes, you can generate more club head speed with a longer shaft. The issue is how do you keep it straight? So that's you lose accuracy, but you gain club head speed.
And as you talk about club head speed, what's your club head speed?
My club head speed ranges somewhere from like 108 to 113 miles an hour. And so that's the two numbers as long drivers that we're always trying to work a little bit harder on is club head speed and ball speed being very important. And for your listeners out there to really maximize that center of face contact, a great thing that I do, buy a bottle of foot spray, just that you can get at your local pharmacy or drugstore or Walmart, and spray a light layer of foot spray on especially your driver, but you can do it with all your clubs, and watch to see where your impact of the ball is. If you're consistently on the toe or the heel, or perhaps even if you're all over the driver face, you are losing key yardage and distance out there. So, I think that if some of your listeners start working on that center ball, that will be a real eye-opener for them, and you can start to make a few little adjustments. Obviously, I highly recommend going to see a PGA of America instructor to get, you don't want to, I tell women in particular, don't see your spouse or don't have your spouse teach you golf. And even if your spouse is a single digit, they still have some bad habits. So I think it's important to always, see the golf professionals out there and really start working on center of face contact. And then the club head speed is and the ball speed will come.
So obviously we beg the question, right? What's the longest drive you've ever had?
So my longest drive in competition, I always say in competition because, I've played Kapalua in Maui, the 18th hole at Kapalua in Maui, if anyone's ever seen it on TV in the season opener for the PGA Tour or had a chance to play it themselves. It's downhill, downwind. I've hit it 416, right? But that's downhill, downwind. But in competition, my longest drive, I was the first woman to ever hit it over 3.5 NFL football fields. I hit it 350 yards, 2 feet 2 inches. So it was that day, Chris, it was like butter. When you hit a golf ball and it comes off and it feels like butter, that's what that shot felt like. Wow,
good for you.
Yeah, it helps on par 5.
Lisa,
if I could only chip and putt, Chris.
Lisa, a couple more before we let you go. I also read that you had an opportunity to play with Steve Elkington, and you actually beat him from playing from the back tees. What was that like?
If anyone gets a chance to see this, I'm telling you, Google this. So Steve Elkington has a show. It's called The Rural Golfer. It's now switched to Secret Golf. But Steve Elkington, we met. This is a crazy story. So he had come to Calgary. Calgary hosts a Champions Tour event, and he's very active on Twitter. And so he had a picture of Elk Avenue, which is in Banff. It's a world famous Banff National Park in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, and he was under Elk Avenue. So I started following him on Twitter. Well, he followed me back, and I couldn't believe it. And so he sent me a private note. How far do you hit it? And I'm like, well, when I'm playing regular golf, I average somewhere between 280, to 290 to try to keep it in the fairway. But in long drive, I average anywhere from 295 to 305, 310, and then I've hit it 320, 330, and so forth. But anyway, so at the time, I was heading down in a couple of weeks to North Carolina to the Kia Greater Hickory Classic at the time, and I said, hey, I'm going to be doing a clinic there. I said, will you be at that event? And he said, yes. He said, I'll come to your clinic. And I'm kind of like, maybe it's like, hey, let's do lunch, right? And so, that it's just someone being kind, right? They didn't really mean it. So a couple months later, I get a note on Twitter from Steve. What time does your clinic start tomorrow? And I'm like, well, it starts at noon. And so sure enough, he came, and he didn't just come for 5-10 minutes. He came and watched my whole clinic, and he was so kind. Afterwards, he said he learned something. He was being very kind. But he said, Lisa, I did see a couple power leaks in your swing. He said, would you like me to show you that? I'm like, yeah, yes. PGA Tour major winner, a multiple winner on the PGA Tour. Gosh, I'd be honored, right? And he said, meet me at the range tomorrow at 2:00. So I was there, Johnny on the spot at the driving range at the Kia Greater Hickory Classic. And then this is as like Bernhard Langer is like hitting balls, 3 stalls down, right? So, and Olin Browne, I met Olin Browne actually, who's your next guest. I met him in the lobby of the hotel. He was such a nice man, so kind. So your guests are going to love him. But, so Steve started giving me lessons, and he talked about mash and players who really mash the ball like Hogan, and showed me a couple little things. And then that was kind of the end, and it was just such an honor to meet him. A couple months later, he gives me calls, says he's coming to Calgary, going to be doing Back to the Champions Tour, and is going to be doing his Rural Golfer show, and would I like to be a guest? So I was over the moon and said yes, and so we did the show, and we started the show, and I thought we were just going to be on the range, talking about long drive, helping guests how to hit it, longer and straighter, and so we did that, and then he said, okay, well, let's go play our match, and I'm like, I said, our match? And he said, haven't you watched the show? So we had to play it. Oh, my gosh. This is why I always watch the show, So we played a par 3, a par 4, and a par 5. So we started with a par 5, and I hit it 300, and he's hit it like 308. And I'm like, wow, like Steve, he has a sweet swing, and he's so long. Like he's like sneaky long. You don't think it's gonna, that ball just pops off the face. He's just, it was beautiful. So anyway, I par, he birdies, and maybe I bogeyed and he parred, but he had me by 1 stroke there. And then we go to the next hole, and I birdied the par 3, and I end up doing a backflip on the green on him. So I birdie it. I do a running round off back tuck, because that gymnastics background, Chris, really comes in handy. And Steve goes, what the bleep? There was a bit of a bleep on the video, and I think I rattled him enough. That I ended up so we both parred the first hole. That's what we both parred the first hole. I birdied, and then we parred the last hole. We both parred the last hole, so I ended up beating him. But it was the backflip that did it, and over 18 holes, Steve takes me by 20. But I lucked out, and it was just a dream come true to play with Steve Elkington and become friends, because he is just, I can't say enough wonderful things about him.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got our next guest, Olin Browne, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Olin in just a minute. Lisa, one more before we let you go. You've got an instructional video available on your website. Talk about that.
You know what? I've done a few clinics on the Champions Tour and on the PGA Tour and across North America with corporate and charity outings, and everyone always said, Lisa, I wish I had that on video. And so finally I videoed it this past year, and I just released it in time for Christmas as a soft launch. I'll do a big launch in the spring, but I basically go through the tips to how to hit it longer, straighter, better. And again, I highly recommend seeing your PGA of America instructors, but these are the things that I do. I focus on, teaching people, proper posture and how to make a good turn and the keys to really, if you want to hit that ball longer, how to do that. So I'm very excited about it, and thought it would be a great Christmas gift and stocking stuffer. So it's available on my website, and it's great because you can download a gift certificate with an access code, and so it's not like you have to wait for the shipping of the video, so that people can use it on their smartphones and tablets and home computers, because I find that's where most people are viewing their videos these days.
That's right. So, Lisa, let our listeners know. How can they go online? What's the web address, and how can they follow you on social media?
Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, they can go to www.lisalongball.com, and there'll be the instructional video up at the top there. You can click on that. I also have my golf schools there, and then I'm very active on Twitter, so at Lisa Longball. If my last name is Vloeswyk, I married a Dutchman, and so that doesn't work well in social media. Too many spelling mistakes. So Lisa Longball has been a great nickname, and so that's my handle on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. So love to connect with your listeners, and if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to help out with a few tips, how to hit it longer, straighter, better.
There you go. Lisa, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to be a part of the show. It was great having you. I hope you'll come back and do it again sometime. Had a lot of fun.
I would be honored, Chris. Thank you very much. And your guests are going to love Olin. What a great guy and incredible champion. And I can't say how kind he was when I got to meet him at the Champions Tour event. So they're just going to love him. And I wish a very Merry Christmas to all your listeners and Happy Holidays, and especially to our veterans and to all the service personnel, because as you said at the beginning of the show, that we don't have our freedom without them.
That's exactly right. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Lisa. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family as well. I look forward to the opportunity, hopefully, to catch up with you again real soon.
Thank you, Chris. I would love that. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That is Lisa Longball Vloeswyk, and boy, you want to talk about a dynamic, striker of the golf ball. You got to go check her out on her website, lisalongball.com. Check out her videos. A lot of fun. Follow her on Twitter as well. She's fantastic. Hopefully, we get the opportunity, like I say, to catch up with Lisa again real soon. Had a lot of fun talking with her. All right, we're going to get to my next guest, Olin Browne, on the other side of this station identification.
You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro. Heard around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now joining me on the French Lick Resort guest line is Olin Browne. Let me give you some background on Olin. He is from Washington, D.C. He attended Occidental College out in L.A., a Division III school. He joined the golf team as a sophomore and gradually moved up to be their number one player. He was a first-team all-conference, all-SCIAC golfer in 1980 and 1982. Received an at-large invitation to the NCAA Division III championships. He was inducted into their Golf Hall of Fame in 1997, and their Golf Annual MVP Award is now named in his honor. He turned pro in 1984. He won 4 times on the then Nike Tour, twice in 1991, once in 93, and again in 96. Won 3 times on the regular tour at the 98 Greater Hartford Open by chipping in, folks, from 40 feet to defeat Stuart Sink and Larry Mize in a playoff. He won again in 99 at the Colonial by 1 stroke over Fred Funk, and at the 2005 Deutsche Bank Championship over Jason Bond. He's won twice on the Champions Tour, including the 2011 U.S. Senior Open by 3 strokes over Marco Mira, and last year here in Atlanta at the Greater Gwinnett Championship by 1 stroke over Bernard Longer. 2005, he was the PGA Tour Comeback Player of the Year. This year on the Champions Tour, finished second at the Regents Tradition, which is also a Champions Tour major. He's had 5 top 10s, including a 6th place finish at the Senior Players Championship. So quite an accomplished golfer in every way possible, and he is currently a major force on the Champions Tour, and I'm glad to have him with me this morning on Next on the Tee. Good morning, Olin. Thank you for joining me.
That's quite an intro, Chris. Thanks very much. And I'm telling you, following Lisa Longball on your show is a tough act to follow. I can tell you that. Her energy level is off the charts. Unreal. It was great. I was listening in as I was waiting to come on and talk to you guys. She's quite an entertainer, and she is as nice a person as she is conversant. She's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Thank you for saying that, too. So, Olin, I want to start by, going back to the beginning for you with respect to the game of golf. I'm always curious, who is the first person to put a golf club in your hand, and how old were you when you started?
When I was a little kid, I kind of dragged around with my dad as he would go out on a Saturday morning, but it was more keeping him company than anything else. And I really played other sports as a young person and didn't play any golf basically until I got to college. I got a summer job working in a bag room after my freshman year, and that's when I really started playing on a regular basis and kind of took to the game and decided I wanted to try and make a go of it.
So, as I said, you went to Occidental College out in L.A. How does a kid who grew up in Washington, D.C. end up playing or going to Occidental College and playing your college golf out there?
Yeah, I was headed out there regardless. I had made up my mind in about 6th grade. I was going to school in California. I don't know what it was. Maybe growing up listening to the Beach Boys. I just don't know. And I wanted to study marine biology, and Occidental had a great marine biology program, a couple research vessels, and the water's not far. Catalina Islands is where they do a lot of their stuff, and that's why I headed out there. And all worked out for the best. Yeah,
it did. So, Olin, you were named All-Conference a couple of times, and you got an at-large invitation to play in the D3 Championships back in 1982. What was that like for you?
Well, the powerhouse of our conference was Redlands University, and they went as a team every year. But every year they would also take the best finisher in the SCIAC Championship, and I made that in 1982, and I got this at-large invitation, and it was really a big deal for me because, playing Division III collegiate golf, let's be honest, at least in my era, we were not very good. And to get an invitation like that was really significant for me. And to be able to take the time to fly back east, play at Wittenberg, which was the host that year, was a big thrill. And it was kind of like the first accomplishment, if you will, that I could hang my hat on. And it meant a lot.
And like I mentioned, Olin, your alma mater inducted you into their Hall of Fame. Their MVP trophy is now named in your honor. What's it like to be recognized on that level by your school?
It's a little humbling, to be honest with you. It's not something that I ever thought about. And they called me up after my 2005 season when I won Deutsche Bank and finished 20-something on the money list and asked me if I'd come out. And they kind of sprung it on me. It was a big honor. And whenever you leave your name somewhere, it means you had an impact on people. And, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the Occidental College program. They didn't have a women's team when I was there. They now have a women's program, and it's just it's a great college. I mean, as we all know, Barack Obama went there for a couple of years. There have been a number of great athletes who went to that little small school, only 1,600 students. Joe Kapp is one. A couple guys that made it to the NFL, which is a surprise. Our track team was always stout. We always ran against Stanford in an annual track meet, home and home. And so, for such a small program, Oxy's always had a pretty good athletic career history.
And you talk about impact on people, and Olin, that's something I'm always curious about. For someone who is as accomplished as you are, in your quiet moments, do you ever get an opportunity just to sit back and think about the great impact that you've had on so many other people's lives?
That's maybe a little theatrical. I honestly am always looking forward. I'm not thinking much about the past. My wife and I used to joke, we'd go to our kids' shows and events at school, and we'd have to look around and ask one of our friends to take pictures because neither one of us remembered the camera. You know what I mean? So I think one of the keys to anybody's kind of like lives is to always look forward. The past is the past. You can't do anything about it. People ask me about golf tournaments and what's it like to win. I go, for half an hour, everybody's taking your picture and patting you on the back. Then you get on a plane and go to the next week. You know what I mean? So I've always been kind of interested in what's going to happen tomorrow as opposed to what I did yesterday.
Well, it's interesting because I like I'm always curious about emotions and accomplishments, for things that, like people, like myself and our listeners, will never understand what it feels like. Like for you, your first tour win came at the 91 Bakersfield Open over a guy that we love on the show, Bob Friend Jr., and it came 7 years after you turned pro. So, I mean, I don't do you remember back, do you think back on, what was the emotion like? You're about to get your first professional win. You're coming down the stretch. What's that like?
It's a really funny story because my wife and I had our son. We have a son and a daughter. Our son in 1988, and I just couldn't get on tour, and there was nothing for me to do besides play mini tours, and it was really starting to get stale. And I didn't feel like I was making any money or improving. I mean, I was scraping by. My wife had gone to law school, and she was kind of keeping us together, and she was a prosecutor here in Palm Beach County, and without her, I'm nowhere. You know what I mean? But my dad caddied for me that particular event.
Wow.
So in 1991, he would have been 61 years old. And, the whole thing a 61-year-old doing, he's emptying all the golf balls, all the tees. He's taking everything he can out of the golf bag because it weighs too much. And I go, Dad, I need those balls. You got to put them back in, And I remember I played with Webb Heinzelman in the last round. He had a 2-shot lead starting the day, and I shot 4 under on the front 9 and basically got hold of control of the tournament. I ended up winning by 4 shots. But on the 18th tee, it's a really awkward tee shot. The fairway kind of pitches left to right, and there's out of bounds right, a bunch of trees, and there's trees up the left. And my dad hands me my driver, and he says, "What's it like to have a 4-shot lead to win your first tournament?" And I go, "Pop, do you mind if I get this ball in play before you start patting me on the back?" and I kind of hit this trap knuckle squeezer out in the middle of the fairway, nervous as a cat, right? And got it on the green and hit a really good putt. But, of course, I had a 2.5 or 3-footer coming back and, just throwing up all over myself. Well, when those kinds of things happen, you make it in the middle of the hole anyway. It doesn't matter. And it was just a cool moment, father and son. My son plays golf, and I have so much fun hanging out with him and playing golf with him. And to have my dad on the bag for my first really significant win, has meant the world to me. He's got pictures of it all over his office, and you know what it's like to be a dad, man. I mean, dads want nothing but the best for their kids, and they're so proud that they can't do anything but pop when their kids do something great. So that was a big day for us.
So fast forward 7 years again, and you got your first win on the regular tour at the 98 Hartford Open by chipping in, by the way, from about 40 feet. Looked very Larry Mize-esque from the 87 Masters. Talk about the emotional rush as you watch that thing go in.
Well, first of all, and totally respectfully, Larry Mize, in my mind, hit the greatest shot I've ever seen in golf. For him to chip in that situation, hometown boy at Augusta, is far and away the greatest shot I've ever seen or could imagine. I mean, it's one of those kind of things. You remember how when Tiger chipped that one in on 16 at Augusta, how the TV screen was shaking and all that kind of stuff? Well, if the cameras had ever been near Larry there, I mean, the place, it was like a volcanic eruption or something like that. It was the greatest shot in golf. But for me, I had almost the identical shot in regulation. And my caddy, when I hit that shot in regulation, said, "I need your best shot right here." And I hit a beautiful pitch to about 4 inches. I just went up there and tapped it in. I was playing with Grant Waite that day. And the truth is that, Larry had control of the tournament, and he ended up bogeying the last hole and letting me into the playoff with Stuart Sink. And we went back to the 18th tee, and I hit my second shot. I'm telling you, it was 5 or 6 inches away from where I had chipped it earlier. So my caddy looked at me and he said, remember when I told you I need your best shot of the day? He said, I lied. I need it now. And it went in the hole, and he said, his name is Mike Harmon. He said the exact right thing at the exact right moment that got me into the exact right frame of mind, where things that are totally unexpected, they come up through your subconscious, and that's the value. I mean, this is a sports psychologist's dream, is to have a story like that so that he can tell his students what it's like to prepare yourself emotionally and mentally to execute a good golf shot. So it was one of those kind of things. And by the way, where I had guys coming up and jiving me the whole next week. He said, "How's the worst chipper on tour chip in to win that tournament? How does that happen?" And I go, "Man, right place, right time. What can you say?"
And a couple more before we let you go. And you talk about Larry Mize at the Masters, and you've had an opportunity to play at Augusta National on several occasions. What's it like for you? What's it been like for you to be a part of a Masters tournament?
Well, there are only a couple things I've ever done in golf that exceeded expectations. Winning a tournament is a big deal, but as I said, it's fleeting. The two things I've done that really exceeded my expectation were I had a number of invitations to Augusta from people that I know or whatever, and I made myself a promise that I'd never go unless I got an invitation to the Masters. And so I had built up this, we watch it every year on TV. Hell, you know what every hole does, what the breaks are on the greens and the whole deal by watching it. We're all Masters fans, right?
Right.
And so that exceeded expectation because it's such an extraordinary place, and the history is just it's just mind-blowing. It's some of the most dramatic golf that there is. You think about the putt that Phil Mickelson made to win the tournament. You think about Tiger winning for the first time there. You think about Jack's run in '86, which is still probably the greatest golf tournament I've ever watched, and I watched every shot of that. And everybody knows where they were when Jack made that run on Sunday in 1986. Everybody knows whether they were, in their living room, at their buddy's house, whatever. If anybody who skipped it and went and did something else regrets it, right? And
right.
The other thing was being an assistant captain on Paul Azinger's 2008 Ryder Cup team. It is unimaginable what it's like to be on the inside watching the stuff that's happening on the outside. It is just an extraordinary experience. And we had been shellacked pretty handily for a number of years, and Paul put together a plan that the players really embraced, and everybody rose to the occasion. And, we had the hometown crowd with the hometown boys, Kenny Perry and J.B. Holmes and all that. Man, it was just the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of.
And to that end, Olin, I mean, Paul and the team gets a lot of credit, right, for being, doing things differently, then, and certainly a huge success, right, for our Ryder Cup team in the history of the Ryder Cup. Talk about what was different then about how Paul put that team together and how you guys went out and executed that we may have gotten away from. Hopefully, we got back to it this year. But talk about what that was like and being a part of an event of that nature.
Well, he's written a book called Cracking the Code. It's been for sale for a number of years now, and it kind of explains a little bit about it. But he formulated a plan. He put together a plan, and he gave the players ownership, and the players dug it. Golfers are independent contractors. We're all dogs working a fire hydrant, right? And it's very hard to get that kind of mentality, the individual mentality, and bring it into a team format. It's very difficult to corral that kind of thing. And he figured a way to do that. And, he had, he developed the pod system based on what the Navy SEALs do, and he consulted a bunch of people about that. And he really thought that he changed the eligibility format, the selection process, and he brought the fans inside the team, the spirit of the team, and they helped elevate the team and carry us to victory there. But the players it's extraordinary how they elevate their games and become almost superhuman. I mean, J.B. Holmes was hitting at 375 or 80 yards off the tee and then flipping little in-between number, 63-yard wedges to 2 feet and stuff like that. I mean, just a masterful performance, tip to toe. I mean, I can't tell you how great the players are in that environment and how much fun it was to really be a fly on the wall in it, because I was just kind of riding around. Hey, you want a Coke here? You want a G2? You want some water? Hey, what can I? It was just fun. It's the best way I can describe it.
And Olin, go back a few years, 2011, you're out on the Champions Tour, and now you bring home a major at the 2011 U.S. Senior Open that was played at Inverness that year. Talk about winning a major and outdistancing a field that, included guys like Marco Mira, Mark Calcavecchia, Herr Irwin, Bernard Longer, all those guys near the top of the leaderboard, and you walk away champion.
Well, we got great fields on the Champions Tour. It's great guys. It's the only sporting event where you can go watch Hall of Famers playing currently and competing at the highest level. So it was an honor. I led wire to wire there, and people ask me about it all the time. What was that like? And I go, the first 3 days were the most fun I've ever had in golf. Sunday was horrendous, man. I was sick to my stomach the whole time. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, couldn't get back to sleep. And you know what? If I'm leading, I go into the final round leading by 2. But if I don't win that tournament, hey, it's a pat on the back and nice tournament, nice week, which means, hey, you didn't get the job done, as opposed to getting to hoist the trophy. And besides that, being a USGA champion is a big deal. They're the keepers of the key, and our U.S. Open is probably our most prestigious event, and that just means the world to me to have that trophy in my case.
Olin, before we let you go, what's coming up on your schedule for 2017?
Yeah, it seems we got a good schedule this year. We got 26 tournaments on the docket. We're starting off with Hawaii. I can't wait to get there. Hawaii is always a great place to start the year, so everybody who's enjoying the snowfall in mid-January, tune into the Golf Channel and watch us play at that Hawaii Resort there on the Big Island in Kona. And it's just we'll start the year there, and then we kick it into gear, and we'll finish it up at the Schwab Cup at Phoenix Country Club in Phoenix, Arizona, and should be an exciting year for Champions Tour golf.
Olin, let our listeners know, how can they stay abreast of all the things that you're doing, whether it's online or over social media?
You know what? I got a Twitter account. It's at Olin Browne. Look me up, follow me, ask a question. I'm happy to answer them. I post I've turned into kind of a DJ. I post a morning tune to get everybody in the right frame of mind. Some of it has a reference to something. Some of it is just plucking it out of thin air. And today I put up Marshall Tucker Band. Yesterday I put up Rolling Stones. I tend to stick to my taste in music. Although somebody makes a request, if it seems reasonable enough, I try and post it. So follow all of us on the Champions Tour Golf Channel or at Champions Tour Golf, at PGA Tour Champions, I guess is what it's called. And I'll look forward to coming back and talk to you about it sometime. If you have any questions, man, send me a question. I'll shoot you back an answer. Thanks for having me on the show today, Chris.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning, Olin, to be a part of the show. Huge thrill for me to have you here. I hope, like I say, and you say, I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
I will look forward to it. Now I'm going to go back and bail out my partner because I left him for 2 holes, and he and I are playing our kids in a match. So that's where it's going. That's where it's happening right now. I hope everybody up there has a great day. Take care, Olin. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family. Merry Christmas to you, too. Thanks a million. All right. Take care, Olin. That is Olin Browne, 9-time winner out on the various tours and the 2011 U.S. Senior Open champion. Huge thrill having Olin Browne as part of the show.
All right, before I get to my next guest, Paul Grangaard, we want to give a shout-out to our friends at the Bobby Jones Company. And, folks, you know this, right? Cold, damp, windy days, game changers for us out there. You can beat the odds with Bobby Jones layers, from quarter-zip pullover, super soft sweaters, and check out all of their great styles that they've got available at bobbyjones.com. But while you're on their site, please click on the equipment link to see their great line of drivers, fairway woods, hybrids, designed by one of the game's most influential equipment designers, Jesse Ortiz. And Jesse, like his father, Lou, and Bobby Jones himself, right? Jesse has a passion for club design, right? Golf clubs. You remember his great tri-wood medals from his days at Olimar. Well, now he's putting his creativity together and his innovative designs to work for the Bobby Jones Company. Check it out online by clicking on the equipment link when you go to bobbyjones.com, or you can go there directly by going to bobbyjonesclubs.com. And if you're looking for some great gift ideas for the golfer in your life, please check out our friends over at FroggerGolf.com. What a wonderful array of products that they've got available, like their amphibian towel that won the best new product at the PGA Merchandise Show back in 2009, or their new catch latch technology that easily and securely attaches and releases your amphibian towel, your Brush Pro club cleaner, whatever you got on your bag. You can easily attach it and then unattach it. Keeps it safe, so you're not going back to the foursome behind you going, hey, anyone find my golf towel, right? So a lot of great stuff, a lot of great gift accessories for under $20 right now. Go online to FroggerGolf.com to see all of their great products. All right, now joining me on the French Lick Resort guest line and making his fifth appearance on the show is Allen Edmonds CEO Paul Grangaard. Let me remind you quickly about Paul's background. Earned his bachelor's degree at Stanford and his MBA from the University of Chicago. Spent 19 years as an investment banker at Piper Jaffray. He's been the president and CEO of Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation for the last 8 years. When he took over now, folks, and back in 2008, they were on the verge of bankruptcy. So Paul has led a fantastic turnaround story there at Allen Edmonds. But there's so much more to Allen Edmonds. We know about their shoes, right? So much more to it than that, particularly this time of year. I want to remind our folks out there about their great accessory items. They have some very cool things, for the person who loves, a variety of shoes, right? You know about that. But they've also got great stocking stuffers like socks, belts, gloves, scarves, plus some of the most unique gift items that you're going to find anywhere for the sports fan in your life. How about some cufflinks or a pen made out of authentic wood from the seats from Fenway Park or Wrigley Field, or Boston Garden parquet floor cufflinks, or Los Angeles Dodgers game-used uniform in their wallets, right? Great stuff, and one of the things that's been on my wish list for years is the Three River Stadium seat cufflinks that they've got available as well. And those are just a couple of the very cool items that you can find on AllenEdmonds.com. And if you browse through, you're going to see so many great products, like I say. And if you go onto their site and click on the gift tab, that's where you're going to find some of these really great sports items. And as you can tell, for me, very excited about all of those things. And one of the most exciting things that's happened for me this year, I come home, boom, I've got a pair of the Three River Stadium cufflinks. I've got a game-used puck from the Pittsburgh Penguins pair of cufflinks. I got a game-used baseball opener from a Pirates game. As a Pittsburgh sports nut, now all of a sudden I'm in heaven. And all by the graciousness of my next guest, their CEO, Paul Grangaard. Good morning, Paul. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Chris. Good morning. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you too, my friend. So, Paul, I've been saying this for the last couple of years. You've been joining me here on the show. You know how much I love, the great sports items that you guys have available. And as a kid, that was born in Pittsburgh and a fan of all things Pittsburgh sports, the Three River Stadium cufflinks caught my eye, a couple of years back, and boy, it's certainly been on my Christmas wish list since then. I grew up in the 70s watching games at Three River Stadium, particularly the Pirate games. That stadium is hugely sentimental to me. I went to Penguins games, watched Mario Lemieux and the boys back in the 80s and the 90s, and now I come home, I get these cufflinks, in the mail from you. Hey, thank you very much. Blown away by having them show up, and then equally blown away as I get the opportunity just to kind of stare at them, and brings back so many memories. I rub them now for good luck. So thank you very much. Talk about those, talk about those things, the things that our listeners can find like that on your site.
Well, I'm just like you. I think we're similar ages anyway. I'm a little older than you, but those old ballparks and watching the Saturday game of the week with Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek, I used to love watching your Pittsburgh Pirates play the Cincinnati Reds. I was here in Minneapolis cheering for the Minnesota Twins, but in the 70s they didn't have particularly good teams, so it was great to have something else to watch. And Three River Stadium and just the new style of a baseball diamond with those pockets around the bases, but otherwise it was all AstroTurf everywhere. It wasn't that good for the players, but it was really cool to see. And I love history generally. We also sell these pens that I've got one in my office here at home upstairs that just is another something to pull out and just stare at. It's made out of a piece of wood from Independence Hall. When they redid Independence Hall, the tourists walked through there and they had to put some new wood flooring in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And, to the credit of the people who remodel our great historic buildings around this country, they don't like to just toss that wood into a landfill. So, various entrepreneurs have had smart ideas of what to do with it. And, to have a pen that maybe George Washington walked on this piece of wood back in the late 1700s, it just kind of boggles your mind, and just really cool. And, on the sports side, when they remodel and repair old seats in Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park, or this year with the Cubs finally winning the World Series, Wrigley Field, it's really cool to have a cufflink that's got a piece of those green or blue box seats from the old days in a beautiful sterling silver setting that you can wear. Nobody who looks at them thinks they're not high-quality cufflinks, and then you're sitting next to somebody at a business meeting, at dinner maybe, and they start talking about their interests in life beyond this business purpose, and, you point at your cufflinks and say, this is Wrigley Field. And it turns out the guy sitting next to you is a huge Cubs fan, and now all of a sudden you got a connection. So, I knew you'd be happy when I sent you those things from Pittsburgh, but just hearing you talk about them really warms me up. It's about we're headed towards 25 below outside here in Minnesota, so I need something to warm me up, and hearing you say that just really does it. Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for all of those things, and I'm gonna treasure those things forever. I promise you that. And now it's the way I start my day, right? To come downstairs, get ready to go to work, and rub the seats, rub the puck, grab the baseball. It's sort of you when you talk about sporting events, right? You see so many players, they rub this stone, they tap this thing, they play like champions today. That's my play like champions today. I touch those things. And to get my day started, and to your point, Paul,
I hope it takes a couple of strokes off your handicap over the next few months. Then that'd be good.
I hope so too. Thank you. and Paul, we've talked about you've got stuff across so many sports, right? I mean, you hit on the Wrigley Field, the Fenway Park. I'm a Red Sox fan too. You got the stuff from the wood seats from Fenway Park and places like Wrigley Field, and that it's not just the cufflinks, it's the pens too. You've got parquet, part of the parquet wood floor from the old Boston Garden. You've got stuff from Lambeau Field available. So it's not just one or two sports. If we talk about the Penguins and hockey. So this is stuff all across all of those sports, and even and you mentioned this the last time we had this conversation. We're talking about some of the things you've got available. One of the other really cool things is you've got cufflinks from the golf balls that have been fished out from the 17th hole there at the TPC, right? The Island Green. You got golf balls that have been fished out of there that have made into cufflinks. So you might have a set of cufflinks, from any number of the greatest golfers in the world. Now they're on your cufflinks.
So, and it'd be a good reminder that they also make a bad shot now and then. So a lot of guys like you and me, when we hit a bad shot, we get really upset. I remember I invited Johnny Miller to speak at a business meeting once, and Johnny's a really great guy one-on-one. I'll tell you, he's been very friendly to me over the years, and he stood up in front of our group, and it was all businessmen, and he said, you guys you take yourselves too seriously out here, and if you don't mind my saying, most of you aren't what I would call athletically gifted. Then everybody starts to chuckle, and he says, I practiced hours a day when I was in high school and college. You guys were all doing something else to get smart so you could get your careers that you have, and you're a success at that. He said, yeah, but look at you. You go out and you hit bad shots, and it's often right away on the first tee, and you're grousing around, and you're frustrated, and your eyebrows are knotted. And you hit a good shot maybe on the third hole, and you go, it's about time. He said, you have the exact opposite attitude as you ought to have, given you've got families, you've got jobs. This isn't what you have ever done for a living. You didn't play college golf, so you know what you do? When you hit a bad shot, just accept it and walk along and have fun. Enjoy the day. Enjoy being out with your friends. Enjoy the beauty of a golf course. And then when you hit a good shot, you go, yay for me, whenever it comes. Yay for me, however many you have. I thought that was great advice for a guy like me who'd always taken the game more seriously than I should have, given my ability level. And it was really good advice, but for a lot of things in life. And he gave some other really good advice that day that if you don't mind, I'll share the other one. I've carried it with me. This was now 20 years ago. He said, the other thing I want to tell you guys, and this is the kind of man Johnny Miller is, I really appreciated this, because this was a hard-charging group of people. You mentioned that I used to be an investment banker, and this was at a meeting for CEOs of companies thinking of going public. And so it was filled with bankers, lawyers, and hard-charging executives. And he said, you ought to treat your family as well as you treat your best client. He said, you would never walk into a business meeting with all the troubles of the previous hours on your mind and immediately start grousing at your best client, which you're not with business on the line. Of course you wouldn't do that. He said, so don't do that to your family either. When you get home, if you're in that kind of wound up mood, sit in your car for a minute and think about how lucky you are. And walk into your house ready for the same kind of upbeat conversation you would have with your best client. And I didn't expect him to give us those two pieces of wisdom that day, and it was the reason I hired him practically 5 years in a row to continue to give clinics to a group like that. It was just a lot of really good wisdom to share to regular people, hardworking people who are out trying to make a living and do a good job in the world. And, you expect he was also great on the tee. He would imitate Gigi Rodriguez. He'd imitate Tiger Woods' swing. He would imitate Lee Trevino's swing. And, even though Johnny, it suddenly looked like these other swings, like he was this other guy. He'd do this exercise on, which showed just, how far away from the game that they play out there. You were talking with Olin Browne here a minute ago, just how far away most of us are. He said as he warms up, and Tiger does this too, he does what he calls the three floors exercise, where he'd hit the same club the same distance, but one of them would go through a window on the first floor, one of them would go through a window on the second floor, the third one would go through a window on the third floor, the fourth one would go over the building. And he hit all these beautiful shots exactly at these different heights because of the wind, because of how he wanted to work the ball. It was really something to see. So these golfers you have on, they're really they can do superhuman things, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly right. And Paul, here we are. This is a very sentimental and emotional time of the year, and as you shared that story about with Johnny Miller about how to treat your family. But for you, as you look around, and one of the things that I've wanted to talk about to my guests lately is the impact that you've had on other people's lives. And as I did in your intro, you certainly turned the Allen Edmonds company around when you took over. Do you ever give yourself an opportunity just to kind of sit back in a quiet moment and think about the positive impact that you've had on so many people's lives, including mine?
Well, I was raised by a father and a mother who very much gave back to the community, and thought the reason we're on this planet is not to indulge ourselves, but rather to make other people happy. And then when I first got major leadership job in business, I started reading some business articles, and I've become more extroverted as time's gone on, but I was pretty tightly wound in those days and very concerned about how I was coming off. And I was working for a guy who just had huge charisma and feeling kind of dogged about my own ability to inspire people. And I read this article, which I thought was fantastic and really great insight. Charisma is not how you make people feel about you. It's how you make people feel about themselves. So it isn't, charisma is not shining the light on you. It's actually turning the light around and shining it on the other people. And it's interesting you asked me that question, because Alan Edmonds was sold this week. So this has been a big week for us, to a great strategic buyer and industry player, Caleres, out of St. Louis, Missouri. They are the owners of Famous Footwear. They own the women's brand Naturalizer. In fact, one of the great things about them is that they are eager to get into men's shoes and men's products, and they don't have any other brands that we have to compete with. We've got all the elbow room we need to grow Alan Edmonds now. It's terrific. Our private equity owners were good to us, and now it's terrific to have a long-term partner in Caleres to think about how we can really achieve our goals at Alan Edmonds, not just in the next couple of years, but really over the long term, and not just in the United States, but now we'll be able to go international with it. It's very exciting. But back to your question, as part of that sale, there were options that people had, and we also had that got cashed out, and we also had a chance to pay some thank you bonuses to some people. So this has been a week when I have had a chance to ponder the impact of working hard and having good strategies and then having success at them on people's lives. We doubled the employment during my time here so far. I'm going to stay with the company, so it's not over, but we doubled employment at Alan Edmonds. We doubled the number of jobs in the United States, which it means middle-class jobs on up. And then I had a guy who got, unexpected to him, a bonus for this transaction this week, and he was in the conference room with me saying thank you, and he started to tear up, and so did I. And this is one great guy. He's a terrific guy, and he's he got a couple daughters he wants to put through college, and this bonus made a big difference to him. So, yeah, this week especially, I have thought about that, I have to admit, and it feels really good to turn that spotlight the other direction and make sure that people feel good about themselves and know how much they're appreciated.
Wow, that's beautiful. And Paul, as you talk about, doubling the jobs, one of the things that I like to highlight when I get the privilege of spending some time with you is that the jobs that you have, it's all here in the United States, right? Alan Edmonds has been making shoes here in the United States since 1922. It's not like so many of the shoes that we see available for sale that are imported from somewhere else, right? So talk about the importance for you to keep those jobs here in the U.S.
Well, that's the reason that I jumped in when there was a leadership vacuum at Alan Edmonds. Is I wanted to. I had an idea of how we could get this company moving in the right direction, and that turnaround now is sort of deep in the rearview mirror. But it was an important time in our company's history. We've just been growing for the last few years, every year, thinking more about success than about turning around. But less than 2% of the shoes that are made in the United States, or that are bought in the United States, I should say, less than 2% of the shoes bought in the United States are made in the United States. So we're one of the last remaining American shoemakers, and that was really important 8 years ago, and it's even more important today as we've doubled our employment. It's just a really important part of who we are, and I'm really, really proud of it. I didn't have the wisdom to serve our country coming out of college the way your listeners do. And, I went straight into the business world, and this is one of the ways I consider I'm doing my part as best I can to serve this country, is by helping this company make jobs for people. And I'll never forget, this is one of my favorite stories, is a guy who looked like he could have been a friend of mine in high school. He's wearing a baseball cap, and he's a new employee in our production line. And he's an athletic-looking guy, and I walk up to him and I say, "Hey, Randy, welcome to the company." And he says, "Well, I'm really happy to be here." And I said, "Well, I'm glad that." What were you doing before? I asked him. He said, "I've been out of a job for a couple of years. I got laid off at another manufacturing operation that closed down and sent the jobs overseas, and I've been doing lawn work in the summer and a little snow plowing in the winter, but I really haven't had a full-time job for 2 years." And I said, "Well, I'm glad that our growth here has made it possible for us to hire more people, and that you're one of the guys we have here. Welcome to the company." And he said, "Well, you're not as glad as I am, because this job is the difference between my daughter going to college and my daughter not going to college." And
wow.
That really hit me that day. And it's just your average Joe, Randy. He's a great guy, and smart, hardworking, and he just needs a chance. And so happy to be able to give it to him.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing that, Paul. And
yeah.
and you guys do a lot of things to honor our veterans, and the tremendous sacrifices that they've made, for us and our country. And as you mentioned, our show goes around the world to the armed forces, through the Armed Forces Radio Network. I want to give you another opportunity to talk about the wonderful line of things that you have available that that honors our military. Plus, you've had some military personnel give you guys some good ideas along the way, right?
Yeah, we have, but most important thing for everybody listening is we have a military discount now. You can go on our website, and there's a button you can push in order to get into our military discount. You put in your military ID. I don't remember exactly how it works, but it's pretty self-explanatory on there, and you'll be able to get a nice discount on what we have here. And we make great shoes for your dress uniform, but we also make great shoes for you to wear when you're interviewing for a job coming out of the service. That's the main goal we're trying to do, is make sure the military men and women, but especially the guys, obviously, because we're a menswear company, have a chance to look their absolute best. It matters. It really matters when you're sitting across the table from somebody how you look in an interview. So you want to have good shoes, good shirt. If it's a tie environment, you want to have the right tie on. So a lot of guys think they don't need to care about that, but actually you only get one chance to make a first impression, and that's what our military discount is for, to try to help people make a first impression. We had a Marine sergeant contact me, and he wanted us to make a wingtip in 2 different colors so that it would stand for the Marine Corps, and we did that for him. And the color I remember best was red, for the spilled blood of our Marines defending our country. But it was, I think it was red, blue, and black that we did for him for that shoe. It was a really cool looking shoe. We do it every year. Back to our sports, we have a March Madness offer every year where we'll do 2 colors for people. They can wear shoes that match their favorite school colors, blue and white, for the great basketball teams that have blue and white on them, or we'll do green and gold. So a lot of our friends in Wisconsin love having green and gold shoes, or red and white shoes. We do that. Watch for that in February. It starts, so that people can have them in time for March Madness. $199. You can wear them to your favorite.
And Paul, as you talked about at the top, you're up there freezing in Minnesota, and so many of our listeners, are going to be trudging right out through the snow, getting, whether it's to and from work or to and from family to go visit at this time of year. One of the things that I wanted to get some feedback from you as we try to do that, what are some of the good boots that you guys have for us to wear that are, both functional, right? Because you don't want to be trudging around in the snow without a functional pair of boots, but are also good for us when we're out and about, whether it's at a holiday party or going into the office.
Yeah, it's interesting that most fashions go in sort of 5 to even a little longer year cycles, but there's one trend that you really haven't seen since 70, 80 years ago, and that's the idea of wearing dress boots to work. People didn't do that really going all the way back until the 30s or the 20s, but now that's a big trend. So we have boots that are made out of finest calfskin, the same kind of leathers that we make our best shoes out of, and you can have boots like that and wear them to the office in northern climates, especially if you got to get to the office instead of wearing some old rubber bottom boot on the way. You can wear these. A lot of them have rubber soles on them. There's a sole that we've been doing a lot with that people really like, both on shoes and boots, that's called the Day-Night sole. It's made by a British company, and this Day-Night sole has spots on it almost like golf spikes, but they're just nubs on the bottom, about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and they're set up sort of like golf spikes, including with the famous Ben Hogan spike in the middle of the ball of the foot. And they give you great traction. They handle the weather really well, but they also look really good. So we've got some great boots. We've got one that we named after Prince. When you're from Minneapolis, you think an awful lot about Prince and where he first became famous and where he filmed Purple Rain. So this one is called the First Avenue. That's the name of the old bus depot that's now a music venue here in Minneapolis where Purple Rain was filmed. So you can get the First Avenue boot. We also have a boot that we wanted to do as a vintage boot, and then when I looked at it, I said, let's do this in honor of our veterans who served in World War II. We call it the Normandy, and it looks just like an old military boot that might have been in a trunk around the house going back to 1945. It's made out of antelope leather. It's called kudu leather, which is really soft and looks immediately broken in. It looks like, even though the shoe's brand new, it looks like it could have been worn trudging through San Mara Iglesia or someplace like that in Normandy. So we call it the Normandy boot, and then we've got a new boot that we call the Higgins Mill boot this year that's sort of an Indiana Jones looking boots. It's the one I wore last night, as a matter of fact. It's got a little wider profile to it across the toe, so guy's got needs a little extra room in the toe. This boot will definitely have that. And then the boot that started it all for us is called the Dalton, which I named after a friend of mine. And the Dalton is a very dressy wingtip boot that you could wear to that job interview. It's a very, very formal, good-looking boot.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of your boots are absolutely spectacular. Love the, we talked about this before, but the Normandy boot, I think, is absolutely out of this world and a great idea, and it is a great honor to the veterans of the country. And, all of those boots are fantastic, and that's why I wanted you to highlight them today, because goodness knows, and you know this better than I, but when you're trying to get to work, whether you're coming off of public transportation or you're just walking between buildings or wherever you might be out and about at this time of year, there's you got the snow, you got the sludge, you got all of those sorts of things, and you guys have some great boots that you can keep us looking good and then and dry as well as we have to walk through those kind of conditions. So kudos to you guys for those things.
Yeah, thanks.
Paul,
we got some great clothes too. Sport coats this year, some vests, and great shirts. A lot of stuff to look at. And the holiday promotions this year are as deep as they've ever been. So it's a good time to be a shopper here this last week before Christmas. A lot of great deals out there.
Yeah, and that's just a couple of more things before we let you go. But that's one of the things I wanted to get your feedback on is for some of us that still we love the game of golf so much, right? We'll wait through the frost delays and everything else to when it warms up, whether it's later in the morning or in the afternoon, to still try to get out on the golf course. What are some of the things that you guys have that can keep us warm when we're out there braving the cold temperatures because we just can't get enough golf?
I'm thinking, actually, as I look out the window, my neighbor's shoveling everybody's driveway. He's an awfully nice guy with a snowblower. I think I might go out and work on my sand game a little bit here this afternoon in the snow. But, yeah, so I know what it's like to not be able to get enough golf, that's for sure. We've got some great golf shirts. We have our own golf shirts that we do under our own brand, but we also discovered this great brand out of Southern California called Johnny O, and we're selling some of Johnny O shirts. They're a little younger looking, a little more fashionable, but they're also really, really comfortable. They're not too young. I mean, I can wear them. I like them a lot. So Johnny O stuff. We also have a down-filled vest that would be a great thing to wear, out when it's really pretty cold, on top of a nice sweater that we have. We got some great sweaters. We've got golf shoes. I put on a pair of our Honors Collection golf shoes later in the season this year and wore them the last few times I played, and it's amazing. Now I understand why Phil Mickelson still wears the classic golf shoe. It's just the feeling under your feet of that classic golf shoe with a little thinner sole. You're so close to the ground, and yet that firm leather, strong leather, gives you more support as you go through your swing, and it's better for your ankles. It's just so don't forget the golf shoes. We have their Jack Nicklaus golf shoes, spikeless, also made out of really strong leathers, and then we have what we call the Honors Collection, which are the soft spike type of golf shoes these days that look really good. You and I talked last time I was on about the Fort Worth, which
yes.
Then Gary Player got excited about it. I thought that was a ton of fun, the way you put that on your social media, and he responded to it, huh?
Yes, that was a huge thrill to see the back and forth with Mr. Player, and we're honored that we get to speak to Mr. Player every year. As we head into Masters Week, he always joins us on the Saturday prior to Masters Week. So look forward to having him back on the show here again in a few months. And it was a great thrill to have him talking about the shoes and that sort of thing, because those shoes reminded me of him. They almost look exactly like the golf shoes that that he wore back in the day. So fantastic.
Yeah, we named them the Fort Worth in favor of another famous golfer down there, Ben Hogan. But they do look, the black and white ones looked exactly like something that Mr. Player would wear. So, yeah, it was really fun.
Paul, one more before we let you go. And, so one other gift idea for our friends out there looking for last-minute stuff. And it's something that I think that we all can use that you guys have available. And those are organizers that people may not know. You got some organizers available on AlanEdmonds.com that can help us organize our chest of drawers, our drawers there, and socks and ties and all of those sorts of things. Talk about some of the things you guys have available that can help us get organized as we not only get into Christmas but to get into the new year.
Yeah, there are two businesses that we have gotten into because we were so good at shoes. One is we made shoe trees out of the best cedar wood that you can have, and cedar wood is a very absorbent wood, so they're great for soaking up moisture in shoes after they've been worn for a day, and they help shoes last much longer. They really ought to have shoe trees for all your good shoes. But being in the cedar business, we started doing drawer organizers because not everybody has or can afford to have a big cedar closet in their home. But to just have a little bit of cedar wood in your sock drawer, your underwear drawer, can help you both keep it organized because they're little boxes and things. But they also help you with the scent and getting that really nice, great cedar smell into a chest of drawers or a non-cedar closet. These things work great. Tie hangers made out of cedar, belt hangers, really, really good stuff. And then the other side of it is, we know all about leather, so we've gotten into leather goods. So you can get your business leathers before you go to that first interview, or maybe it's 30 years after your first interview. But we got great briefcases and great duffel bags for business travelers. that are selling really, really well for us because they're extremely well made. And once again, we've built jobs in the United States. We don't make them ourselves, but we work with small suppliers here in the U.S. To get those business letters made. We do own the plant that makes the cedar goods, so both of those things come right out of the United States and in American hands.
Paul, before we let you go, remind our listeners, besides on AlanEdmonds.com, where they can find great Alan Edmonds products, the shoes and the apparel that you've talked about, plus how they can follow you guys on social media as well.
Well, first we got to spell Alan Edmonds correctly because there are a couple of different ways to spell both of those names. So it's ALLENEDMONDS, not UNDS. It's MONDS. So AlanEdmonds.com, and then we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. You can sign up for Alan Edmonds on any of those things, and we've got a really great marketing team, some really fun young people who are doing that for us. The guy who heads our social media is a guy named Brett Stone, who has come to us here in the last few years and doing a great job for us. So check us out on any of those social media sites.
Paul, thank you again. First of all, thank you again for the wonderful gifts. Like I said, I'm going to treasure those things forever, and that's going to be the good luck charm that gets me through every day. I hope it does take a few strokes off my handicap as well. And also, thank you again for being, so great and coming on the show and, sharing all the stories, behind the products and then, obviously updating us on all the great things that you guys are doing. It's always a privilege for me to get to spend some time with you.
Well, you're too kind, Chris. Thank you for having me again, and especially thanks to your listeners for their service to the country. Thank you.
Absolutely, Paul.
Christmas.
Thanks again. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's to you and your family. I can't wait to get the opportunity, hopefully, to spend some more time with you in the not too distant future. Always a great time having you as part of the show.
Thanks, Chris. And let's play golf in 2017, huh? That'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, let's make that happen.
Yeah. All right. Happy holidays.
Take care, Paul.
Everybody.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Paul. That is Paul Grangaard, again, CEO of the Alan Edmonds Company. And folks, I'm not playing with you. You look at the great gift items that they have. The sports fan stuff is absolutely through the roof. And boy, those Three Rivers cufflinks and the Penguins puck, game used puck, and the Pirates, game used baseball bottle opener, absolutely outstanding. I mean, I smile every time I see those. It brings a smile to my face, and they're fantastic things, and so many other great things on there. And then the shoes and the boots and the sweaters. I mean, we all know Alan Edmonds for the great shoes they have, and they're all spectacular. And the boots are amazing. I'm telling you, those Normandy ones, that has now jumped up on the list, for me as things that I've got to get. But you go on there, so many things you don't realize that they have. So you need to go check it out. AlanEdmonds.com. Take a look at all of the great products, wonderful shoes, wonderful boots, and then you got the sweaters and all of the other items that they've got available. Those organizers, I need to get some of those from my drawers. Goodness knows. So great stuff. And Paul is such a great guy, and it's such a privilege for us to get to spend some time with him periodically. Look forward to getting him back on the show, hopefully again in the not too distant future, and playing some golf with him in 2017. All right, folks, it's time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. Before we close up shop, I want to continue to remind you about our friends and our partner, PGA Tour Pro Jim Estes and the great folks over at the Salute Military Golf Association. Let's hear an update from Jim and about the great things that they are doing.
The Salute Military Golf Association was created to provide rehabilitative golf experiences to the brave men and women who have been wounded while serving our country. Hi, I'm Jim Estes, PGA Golf Pro and co-founder of the Salute Military Golf Association. With my adaptive golf program, we've successfully helped thousands of soldiers in their recovery, both mentally and physically. The SMGA has been providing family-inclusive golf experiences across the country since 2007. To date, the SMGA has equipped more than 1,000 warriors with properly fitted golf clubs and has extended its clinic series to more than 8 chapter and affiliate locations across the U.S. If you are a wounded veteran interested in participating, or if you'd like to learn more about the Salute Military Golf Association and find a chapter closest to you, visit our website at smga.org. We've seen firsthand how impactful golf can be in aiding one's recovery. The Salute Military Golf Association, empowering wounded veterans one fairway at a time. Visit smga.org. That's smga.org.
Yeah, Jim and his team are doing some amazing things there at the Salute Military Golf Association. Please, to find out more information and to see how you can get involved, go to smga.org. All right, everybody, my sincere thanks again to Lisa Longball, Olin Browne, and Paul Grangaard for making today's show so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Want to remind you, please check out our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, with me and my co-host Bob Lazari and our announcer Joe LaGianuscia. That show airs live every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check it out on the Armed Forces Radio Network as well as Blog Talk Radio. That show, like this one, is also available as a free podcast by our great friends over at Podbean. You can also find it on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player.fm, and SoundCloud as well. On Thursday Night Tailgate, we are joined every week by 5 NFL legends sharing their stories from their playing days and insights into today's game. We also highlight 2 players that are doing great things in their communities in our Spotlight on the Positive segment. So please check us out there. Please check us out on Facebook. You can find this show, Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, plus Thursday Night Tailgate. We've got a Facebook page. Please give us a like. That's very important to us as well. Online, you can find the show at nextonthetee.net and thursdaynighttailgate.com. You can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free from Podbean or from either one of those 2 sites. Our sites, nextonthetee.net, thursdaynighttailgate.com, and you can stay up to date with who some of our future guests are going to be as well. Thank you again, folks, for choosing to listen to this show today. We know you've got thousands of choices for content, whether it's on the air or as podcast to listen to. We really appreciate the fact that you've made Next on the Tee one of them. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA legends, pros and top instructors, and media members go to tell their stories. Join us the same time every Saturday to hear more stories about the game we love from the people who love sharing those stories with you. It's all about the great game of golf. It's all about the great game of golf.